Well, hello. What's up, Big Craig? Craig the man. How are we today? I'm doing good. I went through a test of faith today, and I won against the forces of fear. I had a situation last night. There was like I got like a text from work, and there was some bad shit that went down, and I had to kind of go in today and deal with it. And it was, it was a bad situation that could really affect me financially. And instead of everything going south, everything went north, and I got even more job security. So, Mhm. But it's not so much that as it is the kind of mental, I don't know what to even call it, just like, what do you call it? Mental hygiene, sort of, if that makes sense. Where you have a genuine situation that is, dangerous, or a problem of some magnitude, and you can get pretty upset about things and then mentally make the situation worse than it needs to be. So I kind of had to fight off those demons, those voices that would have you, do it, just make you miserable, essentially. But half of it too is a kind of like professionalism, where it's like, okay, I got to walk into this situation, and whatever I say, that it could create certain impressions, or could affect me seriously. So I have to kind of be cautious about my choice of words. There's somebody who got caught in a lie, and that would have impacted me badly. And so whatever, I had to navigate the situation, and I it all worked out really well. So I'm really happy. Um, but that's not even the real deal of it. It's more about my, basically prayer. Like praying to God about, like, God help me through this situation. Because if this goes south, that could be a serious problem for me. So, and I kind of had that, I don't know, maybe like a voice inside me that was like, have faith, have faith. And so I kind of let it go and had faith, and it came out beautifully. So I feel pretty cool about that. It's definitely kind of an event that, excuse me, that I'll build on spiritually, if that makes sense. One has these type of challenges in life, and if you can turn, you know, lead into gold, you know, then hallelujah. So that's quite awesome. And also, I bought something really cool today that I want to quickly grab it. Hello to Ethnet Atheist. Welcome back. Great to have you back. Give me 1 second. I got to grab something. I want to show you guys something I got today. So, let's see how well this comes through. Can you see that? Pretty wild, huh? So is that a type of a market that had like historic, coins and military gear and things of that nature? And when I saw this, I almost flipped. I was like, "Oh my god!" So there were like two others, and this was the one that I got. It was pretty fucking amazing. Not like I'm gonna wear it anywhere, but still pretty. It's just cool. Anyway, very cool. Yeah. All right. Let's read a little chat here. First of all, quick question: how is the audio coming through? I had some audio problems last night. I need a new phone, so I know it's a little crackly. I could probably turn the music down. Yeah, let's do that. All right. That ought to help. Let me check the chat here a bit. Hold tight. Biggest opportunity is to win. Also, the biggest opportunity is to lose. Yeah, man, a lot's at stake. Splatter cat in a litter box? Good question. He'll probably be here soon, unless he's at his other job. Craig, I'm so happy for you. It's so difficult to find people who stand up in the workplace and even for themselves. You gotta stand up for yourself. If you lose your temper, you give your strength away. That's a powerful statement. It's a very strong statement. And yeah, so like I said, it's interesting because like when things of this scale happen, and you could be like, maybe out of a job or something that could throw your life into total hell and chaos, then because of somebody lying, and some shit like that, then it's like, okay, this is a very serious matter. Anyway, it worked out. Is that an artifact or a model of one? I believe it's a model. It was too cheap to be. I say cheap. I should say affordable, not cheap. But I mean, this is metal, but it's got to be a duplicate. There's no way I could get it at that price. And these things are hard to find. I mean, where are you going to find this kind of stuff? Anyway, or they don't know the value of it. But it just seems too new. It's just too new. You know what I mean? Either way, I don't care. I think it's cool. So shut the front door. The sound is good. Thank you. What is the symbol? Skull. You can't see the symbol on this? I don't know how close I can get to the camera. Can you see the way the light is here, and the closer I get, the darker it gets. Can you see that? Can you see that? Anyway, I hope you can see it. Get your glasses on. Assuming that is of course, we are white positive pioneers. I thought it was a belt buckle. Never mind. um, would maybe make a cool belt buckle. Anyway, so what is up with you guys? Is what's new in your world? Ethnet Atheist. I have a question for you. What channels do you frequent? Like, what influencers do you follow? Let's turn the music off. It's too noisy. I'd like to know, just a little bit more about like what your influences are. I think that'd be good to know. It's always nice to, you know, get to know the audience and kind of where they're coming from and all that good stuff. So that would be interesting. I sent you another email. Okay, I shall look at it. I don't frequent that email often, just because whatever, I don't know this. But since you said that you sent me another email, I'll take a look. What else? Ethnet says I already read that. Okay. And away we go. So some interesting progress for the movement. Let me read the. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to read the text. Great White Ape says, "Do you know the Gnostic creation story and their Godhead?" Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Ethnet Nationalist says, "Countercurrents, of course. Amran, I float around. No White Guilt some time ago. Frody, Devin Stack, Sam Hyde lately. Awesome. Very, very good. It's a really good variety. You can't go wrong with American Renaissance. Like that is just always a go-to source. I love Jared Taylor. I always say he's the father of us all. You know what I mean? I think that's a kind of a fun statement, and maybe a fair statement. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's a wonderful human being. What else? So something that's been just on my radar and I'm kind of watching and keeping track of is Nick Fuentes and how he is blowing up. So much so that he's kind of cleaning up his language on his channel because he can see it himself. He recognizes it. My view is that once Candace Owens interviewed him, that opened a floodgate, and I knew that would happen, and I was right. And there you go. Excuse me. Craig says, although I have a lot of info saved on a flash drive regarding that history, I let go of it. Helps converting people to our side. It never helps. What history are you referring to? Ape says Paul spread the gospel 4 years after Christ was dead. Did you know that? Yes, I know that. Craig the man says biospiritual integrity and love doesn't come from academic knowledge. Excellent. World War I, World War II. Well, these are extraordinarily significant topics as related to the injustices that were doled out to white people and such. Having knowledge of our history and how it was warped, how it was stolen, lied about, how so many of our people were murdered in a senseless war. The ideology of National Socialism. It's definitely a huge thing. It's very hard to get our people to listen to it. That I would agree to. People really, really have to be ready for it. Like you can't just come out of the gate and tell people the truth about World War II. They're just too brainwashed for that. They can't handle it. But I would never advocate for not knowing or teaching our own history, especially a history that controls a narrative that is extraordinarily anti-white. You know what I'm saying? Tough topic though, for sure. Let's see what's going on down here. Ethnet says, I'm really not a fan of Fuentes, but I don't hate on him too much. He mentions the plight of whites. That's a good thing. I think he's very toxic in many ways and should be avoided. So this was true. And I think if you kind of catch up with where he is now, he's grown up a bit, which is really great. And the media tides have turned in such a way that now he is in a really, really powerful position as influencer. So much so that and forgive me again, this is like my Achilles heel. There's this Turkish guy that he's a really well known conservative vlogger guy. He had Thomas Russo on his show and like harassed the hell out of him during the show to try to like take a shit on Patriot Front, and very, very anti-white guy. He's definitely a kind of a psyop by our enemies that this guy has influence within a conservative sphere. Anyway, he's trying to like coddle up to Fuentes in some way. And I'm like, see, that's really interesting when the gatekeepers suddenly now, are like, oh yeah, well, this guy is he's very intelligent and very influential. I don't know who kind of writes their scripts or who makes their decisions for them, but it's something you could never have imagined. Like I could never have imagined that Candace Owens would have interviewed him. But and then Jake Shields. I don't know. I don't know. If Jake Shields come first. I think he was after that. But and I'm not saying like he's the top guy. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that he is the guy in the spotlight right now, and that is why I do urge people to kind of tune in and see what's new with him and what he's doing and saying, who he is reaching out to, influencing. He's having a big impact in changing the narrative, and that's all. That's all. Just putting that on your radar. You can make your own, draw your own conclusions and this and that, but you will see that this is true. So, I think anybody in our sphere who cares about, you know, how the Overton window is moving, how that's going to affect our future, who is all that stuff. Now, and then, act accordingly, basically. That's kind of what I would say. Let's read. Craig, I know what logically you would think the knowledge would help, but people don't compartmentalize strictly based on knowledge. Great White Ape says thoughts on teaching compared to the Gnostic and how he said not to listen to the 12 apostles. Are you referring to Paul? I'm not super clear on your question, but I would love to get into that topic. I love that topic. Hippocratic Oath says Nick is cleaning up his language. Yes, aliens, meaning he's not using the N word. That's his new policy. So that just came out apparently. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I think if Nick is doing that, I would say that means he's getting serious in some kind of way. It appears. You know what I mean? It seems like he must be preparing for something. That's my guesstimation. All right, let's get into this in a second here. It's the old juggling my inking with talking to you guys. Not the easiest thing to do, but I'm jumping back and forth here. Anyway, let's see what we got here. Aliens will land on the White House lawn and share 0 point energy tech before that happens. We shall see, my man. We shall see. Um, I'm reading about Elohim and Yahweh. Thoughts on those came about. So I giving him too much credit. I could be very wrong about that, but uh, again, I'll put this like I always put everything on this show, is that I'm just a detective, and you gather evidence and you make theories, and then you try to see if the evidence. So it's getting a little difficult out there to handle all this stuff. But so like what do you call him? Yahweh might just be a kind of like a desert god, if that makes sense. Um, a kind of a lower god that has enough power to you know do shit, get shit done, and saw the Jews in the desert in a desperate situation, and said, hey, I'll do these things for you if you do these things for me, and or something of that nature. That's quite a big thing to say, I know, and I think biblical scholars could probably jump all over it. But it if you know the agendas of these certain desert people that I'm referring to, and the nature of the demiurge, the whole louche, all of these various elements, it it's compelling. It's very compelling to wonder if the juice box are in league with the archons to create the kind of suffering, global suffering, all of it, enslavement, all of these various things that we're coping with, fighting against, um, through this relationship with Yahweh. Um, I don't believe that Yahweh is God with a capital G. I think it appears that Yahweh is the Jews' God. Um, I mean, I don't even know if the Old Testament is a reasonable what do I say? Like, I don't think like the Jews don't use the Old Testament. That's not part of their religious book, so to speak. So like, why would I trust the Old Testament to tell me what the Jews believe? You know what I'm saying? That does fill that in. Um, the Elohim thing, I think you're leaning into the alien, disclosure, alien stuff. Um, this has been an ongoing question in my chat room. About like, are aliens demons, or is that more or less a kind of a religious narrative that is maybe part of a larger psyop? Um, I feel like we're heading into the Project Bluebeam psyop, where what's his face, Werner von Braun warned us. That whole scenario, I feel like that's coming down the line. Um, so these are interesting and important questions in light of all of that. I have my answers. I don't know that they're the true answers. Um, and I love listening to people who have other insights onto the topic. Craig says, you wouldn't believe how presenting the worst injustices less effective absence manifests. People think there's subconscious feelings. So, Craig, let me just put this out there. So, what I've learned in my experience as someone, an activist, a pro-white activist, is that accommodating people's brainwashing and ignorance is never good in the end. It never wins in the end. It just actually accelerates their brainwashing. It kind of like confirms it in some way. if you sort of change the topic, like, oh well, let's not worry about history or talk about those things. Let's reframe the whole thing as some other topic. Then you're really kind of cheating your own people out of some really, really, really important stuff that's part and parcel of this entire movement. Um, if you don't want to focus on those things, that's your personal choice. If you find in your way or Jason's way or whatever that there's other ways that are very beneficial, helpful, something, something, then go for it. But I definitely would not police people into being silent about exposing the truth of World War II, promoting National Socialism, telling the truth about Uncle A. These are, in my view, anti-white behaviors. So that's all I got to say on that. But I do understand the complexity of it. So Ethnet says, I tried to find the Candace Fuentes thing, but no avail. If he has changed, that's great news. I will give him a look-see. Yeah, that's a big one, dude. That was maybe 2 weeks ago that went down. I think the knowledge of World 2 1 good keeps so rap capture destiny of it all on record. Can't get too smart with vagues. Like teaching. Well, I don't disagree with you. I think you do have to be cautious or thoughtful how you approach what I would call normies. I don't know that I like the term vagues. Um, a storm is blowing over. Mm, which that's a little cryptic. What do you mean? Did you ever answer? There is an audio issue. There's an audio issue again. No, 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 no. Don't tell me that. There should not be. The music's off. I put the fan like in a different location away from the phone, so there really should not be any interference from that. I don't think it's a good care of trust. I bet you were already determined to help the white race synthesize before learning the facts. Yeah, I certainly was on board with, like, getting white people to take their own side, before I learned about World War II and the truth of Uncle A. And it was like really shocking and amazing and wonderful when I did finally realize that stuff. So much that I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of the next phase, like I should get into this more deeply. But I still recognize that the average white person is not ready for it. I get that. I do see that. Um, I gotta do something. That's the wrong one. Do. So I am still working, guys. It's so compelling. It's like, oh man, I really want to talk, but then I'm like, well, then you're not working. So get your ass in gear or get out of here. So that's what's got to go down here. Hold on. Regarding Great White Apes questions, I don't know that I thoroughly answer them or not. I feel like I might have not finished that off. But, let's check it out. Craig says, for one, it depends on what you mean by commenting. Simply, well, people are just dumb. Most aren't truly qualified. Sympathy is the key, not empathy. Ooh, that's an interesting notion. Empathy is only useful for the most trivial and current topics. Wow. Um, it's kind of splitting hairs there a little bit. Wow. Well, it sounds like you've got your own system worked out pretty well, which is good to hear. You have some kind of methodology or approach or strategy to what it is you do. Getting back to Gnosticism, how can I say? So, one of the compelling aspects of why I believe in Gnosticism is two things: out of body experiences, astral projection, and near death experience. The field of near death experiences. There's many um, testimonials of people who have died and come back to life, essentially. And then, so if you combine both of these fields of study, um, you can see, you can corroborate a lot of different information on people's experiences, similarities in this and that and the next thing. And then there's also kind of more specialized people like this guy called Wes Penray, who I really like. Penre, Wes Penray. He's got like what do you call it? What do you call those things where you pay money and you belong to the group? Like not a Kickstarter. What the fuck are they called? You pay regularly and you subscribe to their content. I forget what it's called. Anyway, I actually used to belong to that for quite a while, and I kind of got out of it what I needed or whatever I didn't feel like I needed. I just kind of just seemed like the same question answer routines over and over, so I got off that. But pretty powerful stuff, though. Still really compelling. So what's fascinating about Gnosticism is how there's sort of, I don't know that there are, like there's no Gnostic church or something like that. There are books and there is history. I could say that, there's Hermetic Gnostics, there are Christian Gnostics. I would say that Buddhism by nature is Gnostic, for sure. And then there's just, so many different kind of books and resources on the topic. The Nag Hammadi, Gospel of Thomas, and just others, So I'm a little all over the map. Patreon, there you go. 1,000 points for Hippocratic Oath. I am like a freaking savant when it comes to this shit. I don't know why. I think that's my Achilles heel. Like, I'll never be like a Nick Fuentes or something because I blank out on shit like that. Like, really, really important things. Like, what's the name of that service where you pay something and every month you go get? Oh yeah, Patreon. It's only just a word you hear a million, trillion, zillion times, but when you need to say it, you can't think of it. But I blame it on inking. I blame it on doing art while I'm talking. That's my big excuse. Is like I can't seem to. But it annoys the shit out of me. I hate that when I do that. I have to punch myself every time I do that. Speaking of punching myself, I have set up my new kung fu class / martial art / what do you fucking call it? Sparring session with my guys. So I'm super psyched about that. The one guy, well, there's two new guys. So there's going to be a fairly significant amount of time, teaching those guys basics and stuff. And then getting into the sparring. So it'll be kind of like years ago when I started martial arts, my teacher was like a Bruce Lee system, Jeet Kune Do, and he would teach me techniques for a half hour, and then we would spar for an hour or two. And if you're a total newbie, you just have a couple skills under your hat, and you're sparring for at least an hour. That's pretty crazy. That's a lot. But it's beautiful because you just automatically and organically learn a lot of the basics, like footwork and timing. Timing is huge. Um, Creating space, controlling space, I should say, between you and your opponent, all this stuff. The cool thing is my buddy he's got like great sense of humor. He's like a real fun guy. So, and then the other sparring partner is an old friend, another super fun guy. More of a guy that you can have like deep conversation with though too, which is really, really, for me, I love that. That's a whole thing. So yeah. It's going to be great. Starting next Monday. I have to say, there's been times when like strangers would be walking by and they see there was like these two guys from like Thailand that were walking by one of our sparring sessions, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And "Oh, I'm sparring," and "Oh, what system do you do?" "Oh, da, da, da." "Oh," and the guy's like, "I do, Thai boxing." You could tell he was like really, really anxious to jump in. But I don't spar strangers off the streets. That is not part of the thing that I do. But it was kind of a negative vibe though. The guy was he was one of these like, "Oh, I got something to prove" kind of mentalities, and I'm like, keep walking, asshole. You know, keep walking, asshole. Um, anyway, I think it's probably time to check the chat. That's some really interesting questions and conversations. Robert E. Pyle is here. Oh my God. That's freaking awesome. Welcome. Great to see you, big guy. Flash is here. My buddy, my good friend, my pal, Flash Gorgon. Shadile. Shadile. Bouncing back and forth. I may have missed it out. Don't worry about it. Robert says, I forget stuff while I'm streaming all the time, no matter what of the knowledgeable subject talking about. Just forget simple things. It's frustrating. I'm kind of doing. I wouldn't be able to get through this show without Hippocratic Oath. The man, like, he's gifted, man. He's just like smarter than the rest of us combined. So, thank God I got him. Anyway, who is Lerman? You tell me. I've never heard that name before. Right Perspective Radio on Odyssey. I haven't been in Odyssey in a minute. Is that a new guy I should check out or something? Is some kind of cool channel or something? So I showed some of my recent art to the investor, and he was super, super happy with it. So that's cool. It always feels good. Mucho nice-o. Got a great weekend ahead of me with like house music. This is like going to be a killer weekend. Big shows coming up. Super excited. Happy times. Oh, yeah. Good stuff. He's not new. He's been around. That is great news, brother. I'm glad the investor says. Indeed. I haven't been on it. Well, tell me more about his content. Like, what's he about? What is he about? Give me a little crash course. Okay. There's a video that came out 5 months ago by Asha Logos, which I just discovered, and I guess he's has done a kind of a new series on what do I call it on what is it called? Basically, like rectifying fake history. You know, like how academics have gone out of their way to try to lie about and destroy the truth about white history. And so he's on a mission to kind of like rectify that, to fix that. And I've spoken to him before a couple times about coming on my show. So I feel like it, and he loves my content, which is really like a massive compliment. So I think we're going to reach out to him again. Um, I don't know if I want to announce it yet, but I have a really big new show that I'm going to be doing with a fairly big influencer, a well-known influencer in our field, in our culture, and it's going to be a fun show. That's going to be different from anything that's out there. Um, he and I are kind of talking it through, so I want to coordinate a bit with him before I make any announcements. But really happy about it. People in my chat room know about it, because I give like special privileges there. Anyway, yeah. So there you go. You know. But yeah, I'm coming up just little by little. Um, little by little. Okay, let's check. What does Robert say? The robot looks happy. She must be a stick shift. Wah, wah, wah. Yes, sirree, Bob. She is in her dream world right there. And like this is Uber Chad, and he's Uber Chad. He's like a pretty serious superhero badass. He's real smart, courageous. He uses his kind of tech on his suit really creatively, and like has like smart ass quips, comebacks to the villain, stuff like that. Like a fun character, fun Aryan superhero, And so he's like, I got to get out of here. I got some shit I got to do or whatever. And so he's not looking at this like it's some sexy thing, but she is, which is part of the dynamic of the humor of this, if that makes sense. All right, shut up and draw. Uh, Shut up. Um, let's see what's shaking here. Cool beans. All right, it's coming together. So Robert says he kind of talks about current events. He's talking about the American Eagles ad. Cool, that's good. I forget the woman's name, the actress, but she's got good genes. I mean, come on, that whoever wrote that commercial must have known they were like hitting a nerve. You know what I mean? I mean, I love it. I think it's funny. I think it's awesome. It's true, and it's just it's like a troll. You know, it feels like a troll to me. Am I the only one who feels that way? Do you guys agree? I mean, come on, like she's got good genes. It's come on. Am I right or am I right? Two choices. Am I right or am I right? It's not that hard. Anyway, let's continue with the work here. Mr. Kent, do your job. Do your job. Okay. Hold on, I gotta focus on this. This kind of stuff can really, if you don't get it right, it really ruin everything. All right, there she is. There she goes. Meow. Meet George Jetson. Okay, Craig, it pissed me off that would rather obsess over these comics games, but what won't give your art a try. Well, their days are numbered. Like they enjoy being fanboy cucks over arts. Yeah, so I gotta respond to this. So like that's what this new show is gonna be, is that there's so much like soy boy content out there for things like comics and movies that we're gonna flip that. We're gonna do something, different, and provide some cool content for the Uber based, you know. Um, it's just you just get sick and tired of hearing these like soy boy takes about everything regarding pop culture. There needs to be our guys with our takes. You understand what I'm saying? You know, so that's what's coming down the line, bros. Bros. Stick shift. Yes, very funny. Low key, I don't think robots, even for that purpose, would have the same negative effect. Porn. Yeah. Sydney Sweeney, thank you. Another. I just dropped another 1,000 points in your based bank account. Ka-ching! Nice. I don't know if you ever saw those like the footage of there's this famous footage of there's like a black female politician and she's giving some kind of speech, blah blah blah, and there's this like white, really psychotic looking white liberal Democrat woman sitting right behind her, and she's mouthing the words of the speech, meaning like she wrote the black politician's speech, and she's kind of going through it word for word in her own memory, and then even at one point like jumps over and like whispers in her ear like blah blah blah, like to like correct her on something. And so it just shows like what a theater shit show the whole thing. And then just also the idea that this black woman isn't smart enough to just say her own ideas. She doesn't have her own ideas. She's literally a puppet, of the anti-white system. Well, that's what Hippocratic Oath will be. He will be the guy that writes my speeches and sits in the background and no, like Donald. That you got to change that word there. Oh, okay. Sorry, it's just a silly joke. Moving on. Boy, we lost touch with the Gnostic conversation. That was cool. Craig says, I agree she does genes and marketing. Yes, they're flying. Full manga waffen, 100%. Why is my phone losing? It's plugged in. Uh-oh. What is going on? Uh-oh. It's telling me my phone battery is going down, but it should not be. It's plugged in. I don't even like being called pop culture. It's rather pop subculture or pop anti-culture. Ooh, that's a cool one. Shit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Subversive culture. You know what I mean? Wow, dude. That's an interesting point you're making there, bruh. Most interesting. All right, it's time to lay down some black. I'm gonna lay me down some black ink right there. So my three students, or well, I shouldn't say the one guy's not a student. He's like my sparring partner. The new student is black. The other new student is a Christian Palestinian, and then the sparring partner is like half Puerto Rican. So it's I'm just saying that's in case anyone ever says I'm racist. You know, now I have proof that I'm not racist. Would I love to be teaching our guys? Sure, I would. If we didn't have to hide, you know, if we could just, I could just put an ad in the paper saying, "Hey, all based white dudes come out and learn free martial arts." You know what I mean? And, but no. Flash says, "Hot take: Sydney Sweeney is mid. She has droopy eyes and a pretty normal body." Ooh. That's a hot take. I think guys are like any girl with big boobs is automatically like, wow, you know, like we kind of have like boob syndrome. You know what I'm saying? It's just sort of like, I think you know what I'm trying to say. I'll admit I have it. I definitely have it, but I'm working on it. I'm gonna beat this. We're gonna beat this, okay? Hang in there with me, guys. Mid. She does have droopy eyes. I mean, I don't think she's ugly. I think she's attractive. I've never seen her in a film. I don't know anything about like her acting or what have you. I will say one thing. I judge actors very, very much on the roles that they choose. And like if I see an actor or an actress choose a role that is really, really anti-white, I'll just hate them forever. And I don't care what movie they're in or how good their performance was. I'll be like, I know what kind of person you are, and fuck you. You know, I'm not watching your fucking films, you piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? That's generally how I roll. Um, let's see. You know, back in the day, like Robert De Niro was the big. He was the big one. You know, like oh my god, Robert De Niro's in the blah. And then once I like, he did that film like Meet the Fockers with that Jewish guy who calls himself a comedian, like Ben Stiller. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You just like ruined your whole career. Like, I'm gonna do a stupid film about couples. I was like, are you out of your mind? You just like took a giant dump on your entire career when you did that. Oh my god, what are you fucking thinking? Anyway, she looks major boobage. Yeah, no doubt about that. It's definitely cute and sexy, just not crazy perfect. I agree. Flash, in your eyes, who is crazy perfect? That would be an interesting. You know, me being terrible with names, I'd have to be like in front of Google to like look up and be like, oh, this one. Oh my God. You know, I'm totally in love with this one. It's kind of scary how men can fall in love with a woman just because she's like insanely beautiful physically, but like who knows who she is on the inside. That's kind of, you know, that's definitely a trap that I'd say all men, maybe, or some men, most men, fall into in their lifetimes. You know, that's kind of where, like, I'm surrounded by like insanely hot women when I go out clubbing and stuff like that. But I very much am in the mentality of like, and I wasn't always like this, and I admit that, but like this isn't gonna go anywhere, so I don't have to be nervous. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's not like I'm trying to defeat myself. If there's an opportunity for something to go somewhere, I'll pursue it. But I'm kind of at that place where it's like, okay, like I'll give you an example. There's this chick that I've been kind of working on, and she's interested in me. I'm in blah, 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 and we a lot of sort of flirting online and building tension, and then finally the big introduction, and we're dancing together and kind of talking, joking around. Um, and I finally get to actually talk to her. She's like, friends with my friends and just part of the scene, and but she's like insanely hot and very, very, very pretty. Um, I finally, once I kind of got to talk to her and get a sense of her, it was sort of like getting a little bit of bitch vibes here, a little bit of that. And I think it's just when you're that beautiful as a woman, there's a really, really strong sense of entitlement, which can be bad. It's like bad for their character, if you know what I'm saying. Um, I don't know that you really want to be with a woman who's that beautiful. I think they're high maintenance. The hypergamy has got to be through the roof. You know what I'm saying? Um, I really so like there's that now. There's this other young lady I'm goofing around with, and there's a real energy there. There's a real like authenticity there. She looks very Polish in my eyes. There's a really strong Slavic look to her. Gorgeous girl. Oh God, she's got like whitish blonde hair, um, and she's just clever. She's cute. She's going to school for architecture. That's cool, And I was like, oh, architecture is so freaking important, for culture, and I can talk to her. It's like so that's really neat. I'm still not like gonna go head over heels or whatever, but kind of neat though. Let's see what we got. I won't simp over Sydney Sweeney. Zabadoo. Busted Bababoo. Flash still better to look at than the usual frizzy-haired mulatto who you see in most ads. I strongly agree to that. I love how the left is just like having an aneurysm over this. Like they work so freaking hard to like try to promote this anti-white beauty standard, if you know what I'm trying to say. I think it's like, you know what I mean. They'll get some of the ugliest women on these commercials and try to make it like, you slay, girl, you go, girl, and then there's one commercial, one out of a million, says is this Sweeney girl, and it says she's got good genes. The whole fucking industry falls, like the whole thing just explodes, because of one commercial. So it sort of shows how fragile they are. That's kind of an interesting point. I know Bridget Bardot. Oh God, yeah, Bridget Bardot, Francois Hardy, Mireille Dark. I don't. I wish I could pronounce French properly. Jean Birkin. You said you liked Tanya Roberts. I do. Oh man, you're also a Donald Kent historian. Wow, man. Dude, I can't keep giving you raises. I can't afford it. I'm sorry. This the business is gonna go under if I have to keep giving you raises, man. Um, there's something. Anyway, moving on. She's eerie. She's eerie. That's a curious thing to say. It's a positive way. In a positive way. Okay, I haven't been to a club in a long time. Farrah Fawcett, Heather Thomas. Oh, that's interesting. Farrah Fawcett. That's another reason why porn does more damage than fembots. Women think that if they get views, that it means the same thing as when guys do. Men check out every woman who's doable. Women only look at their most ideal candidates. Yeah, I think we've had some pretty, we've dug into the whole male female situation on this show. Had conversations about that. It's very very serious matter in terms of like the damage being done to our people, and I'm not really in the mood to go into that at the moment, but I'm very 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 much aware of it. I'll just say that. um, One thing I kind of sort of don't want to do is repeat the same talking points over and over. um, I mean, I like to talk about things that I can investigate more, or like, oh, here's an update on that situation, or maybe if there's new people in the chat, and for example, like we were talking about Gnosticism, and like if people know more about it, I want to learn. So like, I think the value of this show is largely in part due to the chat. That's you guys. Is the conversations we have and how we're bouncing ideas off each other and having sort of like a group discussion. You know what I mean? I don't know how many shows are like that. I mean, there's plenty of shows that have super chats and entropy at the end or whatever, but this whole show is like that. Pretty much without me charging, or not charging, I shouldn't say that, without me taking donations or whatever. I know I should. Maybe when I do this new show with that other guy, maybe we should do like an entropy type, questions from the chat, something or other. I guess I have a little aversion to that because I'm kind of like, I sometimes think when you make things about money, then it just, it changes things in a sense. It changes the authenticity of things. I'm not trying to make a living at this, at like, like YouTube or whatever. So if for some reason I could say quit my job and do this kind of full time and make money at it, that could be a thing, get a decent studio, good audio equipment. I just contributed what I have to. Plus, I try not to put too much focus. Da da da. That means as far as Ann Ross is here. Welcome, Ann Ross. How we doing? Why is the screen so zoomed out? Well, I can zoom in as well. I can get like that close if you like. Basically, I'm using my phone to do this the stream, and I'm just doing some artwork, and so I'll zoom in, zoom out, depending on what it is that I'm illustrating. Like I'll do this guy right now. This character is called Clown World. And Ross, when you hear the term Clown World, what do you think? What does that conjure in your mind? Low battery, 10%. See, that's not true. I'm plugged in. Hold on, I gotta check my tech. Hold on. You're plugged in. Where are you? That might not have been plugged in so well. Hold on. Wait. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Hang tight. No, that's fine. Okay, well, so if it might be a short show, then I guess we'll see. So moving on, that's one aspect of long-term games. I was out to work, which was in the first email. Oh, Twitter comes to mind. All right, there you are. I think that's a good answer. Um, are you on Twitter much? I used to be on it quite a lot. Um, I used to be a pretty active shitlord But then I feel like I'm in a place now where um, I've done my job, so to speak, and I've got other places that I'm sort of concentrating on. YouTube. I just started a what do you call it? Substack. I haven't done enough on the Substack though, so I have to gotta get back to that. Nick has a debate with Alex Jones about Trump Epstein, and he's over 45 minutes late. That's scary. That's scary. That that actually scares me a little bit. That almost sounds like somebody whacked him or something. You know what I mean? That's a big. That's a scare right there. Because he's not like a late guy. You know what I mean? And the whole Epstein thing it's like the whole house of cards is hinged on that. You know what I'm saying? That is a big fucking problem. That is a little scary. Fuentes is getting like I mean I've been talking about him so much like how he's coming up quite a lot. You know, also a lot of posts. Oh yeah, I used to get high volume internet traction, sent more messages per day. I feel like the movement's at a place now where like I can let go of the wheel and I don't feel that I need to. I think I was sort of like part of the first wave, or not the first wave, but I was one wave of shitlords that went out there and fought the good fight. You know, took a lot of shit, got hurt a lot from certain people and things, disrupted my life quite a lot, lost friends and family, you know, all of that shit, you know. But I've kind of switched gears more into production, art production, my show production. Nick is known for being late. He's on that Mexican time. Haha. His people roast him constantly for being late. No shit. Wow. Flash says everybody's talking about Trump, Epstein, and Candace looks into an obscure French senator. Yeah. See, that just shows you the true like caliber of Candace and how she'll always be that kind of grifter girl. You know, I'm like, you just had freaking Nick Fuentes on your show. You like, can you give me a bigger L? I mean, what a loser. I mean, that just was. And then she's like super focused on this. Like, I'm gonna die on this hill. You know, find something better to talk about, please. It's really more of a diversion. Away from important things that are happening. Like, okay, I see the evidence is very, very, very strong, but like what do we do about it? What is it? I guess Macron is like trying to sue her. It's just like this is stupid. Come on. I mean, it's like shock jock type stuff. Like what are those shock jock type TV show hosts? You know, where they're like they get people to fight on their show and stuff. Like it's not my baby, that kind of shit. It's really low. This is just she just shot herself in the foot by doing that. Um, I know. We are never sort of begs who need us. Well, you contribute something we need our spheres. Thank you. Candace Owens won't have you. No White Guilt or anyone from our spheres. Da da da. I've been on No White Guilt show, and let's see, like I think at least twice. The show was not like his regular stream; it was the after party. Have you? He discontinued the after party. What's his name? Jared left. He went on with his life, whatever. Um, but anyway, those were great times. I was really proud of those episodes. Um, and Jared was fantastic in terms of like really a sensitive guy to like aesthetics and had the right questions regarding art and how that's important to our movement and our people, our well-being, our history, all of these things. Of course, Jason's a highly intelligent guy and had very, very good questions, commentary. So it was really neat. That was definitely a big highlight in my. Oh, speaking of that community, I am going to be on Yiz's Discordant Dragons on the 18th. I don't know if you watch Yiz and her show, Discordant Dragons. But anyway, I will be on the 18th. And I've been on that show several times. Um, she's an old friend, so that's cool. There you go. I have those songs in Hypocratic Oath says you called him Jared George once. Did I call him Jared George? Wasn't that his name? You made a poster for them. Yeah. His name's not Jared George. I forget. It's been so long. It shows you how freaking old I am. I'm an old man. I forget things a lot. You gotta have patience with me. I'm kind of curious, how old do I sound to you guys? It's just for fun. Well, when the audio doesn't suck, no. Okay. I do watch some of her show, The Dragon Show. I actually took some of her advice, called the state county to get things done. That's good. And at time, because there's multiple groups, local politics. So there you go. Um, yeah, it's crazy how much things have changed since like 2017. I really got involved in politics when Trump was going into office against Hillary. That was the big entrance for me. Not just me, but of course quite a lot of people. Um, and so I don't know, like everybody, I just kind of got into the whole online culture of things. This is back when I thought like Ben Shapiro's cool, like shit like that, like oh my god, like holy cow, you've come a long freaking way. I gotta say, I do remember seeing a meme at one point where it showed like kind of the progress of people in the alt right, and I could see myself on that spectrum, but I was horrified to find out that the end of the spectrum was to be like Hitler pilled, basically, where you finally embrace the truth of you know that, and I'm like, oh my god, is that where this is all going? Oh my god, is that? Am I going to become that? Um, the election being stolen was one of the most red pilling or black pilling experiences of my life, to see how that all went down, and how, like, it just showed that the government is a joke, it's a farce, that democracy is a farce, that, it was the beginning of the end of my relationship with Trump. Um, and then the hell that we went through for those 4 years under Biden Harris was like, I mean, there were very, 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 very terrible things happening in my life during that period too. Like, to be quite honest with you, I was really suicidal during that time. And there were just a couple things. I mean, I'm a single dad, and I can't. That's not an option or whatever, and it's not a healthy thing. I'm not proud of any of that, but I had some extremely profound depression at the time. That I'm thankful to God that I'm through that. There's white males have an extremely high rate of suicide. By the way, that's a whole. That is like a mission in and of itself. That really is a kind of a mission in itself for the movement. Okay, what do we got here? Hypocratic Oath says, I feel for that Trump Hillary kind of. Well, hold on. I fell for that Trump Hillary roadshow. Yes, after the coup and summer of St. Floyd, I woke up. I have friends who lost their small businesses. Because of the coup, or because of riots, or what exactly caused that to happen? The coup was like totally freaking 1984. That was some really whacked out shit. Obviously, we're still paying for that. Like, I've lost a lot of my family. Like, basically, stopped talking to me because of my positions on that, and that's a whole other fucking can of worms. But and then, like, I've got this one friend who's sort of like, I don't know what to call him. It's like what we are with the white identity movement. He is with um, the vax, the jab, the coof. He's like incredibly educated on all the science. He's just a dude, but like he can explain really complex science behind all of this stuff, biology, all that kind of stuff. And it's quite amazing for me just to be, friends with a guy like that. And it's not like I can repeat what he's saying per se. He like sends me books in the mail. And I'm like, dude, I don't have time to read a whole book on like the science of the jab or whatever. I apologize. I care, okay, but I'm not you. I can't do that. If I'm gonna put time into reading a book, it's gonna be about